Here we have a couple of tips on making some cheap road signs and billboards. I always think these little signs add an air of reality, and you can get some great signs. Road signs you can print off on your printer. They're in the public domain, so you just have to Google road signs and you will find a website where you can print off the road signs. Now, what I've done, I cut out the pages of the signs I like. I haven't been through all of them yet. Look, there's a fantastic one, Zoo. I think I might use that later on. But these are genuine UK road signs, and they just so happen, let me show you, look, to be about the right size. So if you haven't got a highway code, or you can't find them in a magazine, print them offline on a printer, and I'll take you through to the next stage. What you do is you stick them on a piece of card. You just glue them down. I've used PVA glue. I've smeared some glue on, stuck them down. There's a page. You can see I've cut some out. They're ready, and I've got all those for another time. And then when you've glued them and they've dried, you then very carefully cut them out. Now that is where it can get fiddly. I used a very small pair of nail scissors, and then when you've cut them out, you get a cotton bud, or you could use a cocktail stick, or you could use anything really, just anything that looks a bit like that. And in my case, I'm going to cut off the bud, and then you take one of your signs. Obviously, I haven't cut this one out yet. You take one of your signs, Alvin, and then you take one of your signs. So I could use that one, and you glue it onto the stick. There's another example there. Just that. I haven't cut this one out yet, but when I've cut that out, I would glue that, stick the glue onto the back. So I end up with a little sign like this. Now what I've done is I've painted that grey. I've painted the plastic grey, and in some cases where I wanted a smaller sign, I've used a little bit of metal, almost like a paper clip. So there you go. That's how you make little signs. And what I've done is I've stuck one on the back. So when I'm driving one way, I can see that sign, and then when I'm driving the other way, I can see that sign. So you can literally make as many different signs as you want. As you can see, I've got a whole batch here ready to go, which I've got to cut out and put on sticks. Now another great little thing is billboards. Now you can see what I've done here is I've been through my local paper, or you could go through a telephone directory really, because what you're after is pages of adverts. Okay, and then what you want to do is when you found an advert you like, or you cut it, then you stick it on a piece of card like this. So let's do a little example of one. So there we are. That is one cut out sign. I'm just going to trim it up a little bit more actually. Just roughing it up a bit. I'm doing that just to give it a little bit of texture, because then when the light shines on it, it won't look quite so much like a piece of paper cut out of a local magazine. So I'm just pressing the edges down a bit, just to take away that I've just been cut with a pair of scissors look. I think it's getting there. I think that could do. Might just give it a bit more of a rough up. You can imagine this might be an old sign that's been out in the wind and rain. With dirt and dust. That's just taking some of the print off. Wow, it's looking quite authentic. So, next stage is it needs some legs. So for this, I'm going to give it 2 cotton buds. This is a contact adhesive, so what you do is you put a bit down and then you coat the other bit into it. Give it a good coating, and then you just have to wait just a few seconds for the glue to become tacky, and then you put them on. It's not if you put them in the wrong place, it's not a problem. You can always take them off and put them on again. And I may paint those. I may paint them grey. So there we have some very easy to make little road signs, and you can put anything on them, and you can also make some billboards with anything on. And one final little sneaky peek is buildings. Now, I bought these printed. They're paper. These are made of paper, very, very cheap, and you can either download pictures to print off yourself and cut them out, or there are people online who will sell you a printed sheet with the buildings on, and that's quite a good thing to do if you haven't got a very good printer like me, because you need quite a good printer. So that's just some of the buildings I put in the background. Some of my other buildings are made of plastic and they've got a lot more detail, and I tend to put them at the front. But for buildings to go at the back, paper ones and cardboard ones are very good. I'll just show you one more thing. The same principle as these buildings here. Now, these are printed. These are buildings, bits of paper that come with the buildings printed on. And the idea being these are for backdrop sceneries. So you have to stick the buildings on a piece of card. This is what I've done with this. I've stuck them on a piece of card. And then you have to go around with a knife and you have to cut these bits out. So you end up with a sort of silhouette. So these will be seen in the background. Very much like this. Don't know how that looks. So there we go. Road signs, billboards, backdrops and buildings. The 4 B's. I hope you enjoy looking at the videos to see some of these little signs springing up.